If one thing goes wrong, it's something else is going to have to compensate, and your whole body can be thrown out of whack. So it's better to make sure that we keep your whole arm healthy and stable while you go through rehab. The elbow is kept immobilized for 10 days. So, exercises are done daily for the entire upper quadrant of the arm, which means you've got the wrist, hand, shoulder, and elbow. So like I said before, it's the whole arm that needs to be rehabbed to make sure that it's as strong and healthy so your elbow can recuperate as fast as it can. Sports-specific rehab begins approximately 4 months in. I am specifically talking about baseball at this time because that's where the most of the rehab comes. So after 4 months in, you're allowed to start throwing and everything like that. Pitchers can get full range of motion about 6 to 8 weeks. Doesn't mean you can go straight into sports-specific, but you're going to have your full rotation back of being able to do drills for baseball. And then in the next 4 months, we'll include strength training for the entire arm. So before those, before the 4 months that I talked about before, you're just doing, different motions and different rehabs like that. And then once you get past those 4 months, you're allowed to add more weight and get your elbow back to original strength. Because I don't know if you guys have ever broken something here, like a wrist or a leg, whatever it might be, but I personally broke my wrist when I was in 7th grade, and just seeing the difference between the strength of my left arm to my right arm after I got out of the cast is amazing to see how weak your body gets just in a couple of months of being in the splint. So it's important to build up the strength slowly for your arm to get back to where it used to be. So aerobic exercises and a complete healthy body is ideal for recovery. Just like anything else you do, it's important to keep your whole body healthy so that your arm can recuperate the way it needs to be done. So everything can work out the way it is. Icing is expected after each rehab and throwing session. Especially if you're playing baseball, they tell you even if you don't have the surgery, you need to ice after every day you throw. But if you're not playing baseball, it's important to ice after each session of rehab to keep the inflammation down, just like anything else. Chances for complete recovery are approximately 85% and are growing. So after you've done the correct amount of rehab for the amount of time needed, there's a very good chance that you're going to be able to come back to where you were, if not better, in your sport that you choose. So I wrote 85%, but there are different statistics that say 90% upwards, more than that. But this is up from 60% just a decade ago. So most of the advancements in the surgery have come in the rehab section. But what complete recovery means, if you guys didn't know, is for this surgery specifically, it says no pain with throwing, full shoulder and elbow range of motion, normal forearm strength, and good throwing biomechanics. So the normal forearm strength, it's very important to be able to lift your weights just like your physician tells you to, and not to over-increase it too much or anything like that. But that's what complete recovery is. And that's what's expected. If you do everything right like you should with sufficient rehab, you should be back within a year if you're a pitcher, and 6 months if you're a position player like an infielder and outfielder. But one of the most important things, so I want to talk about kind of safety here, is to not test the limits of the graft. So the graft means you're taking something like a tendon from somewhere else in your body and grafting it to a different area, right? So this type of surgery I've read about says that you're going to feel better than what you actually are. You're going to start doing light workouts and light weights, and you're going to think to yourself, this feels really nice. I feel like I should be able to throw now. I feel like I should be able to lift more weight. But in reality, you need to trust your physician and understand that you do not want to test the limits of your graft, because very quickly something bad can happen. You have to understand that, like I said before, it's in this past decade that most of the advancements have come in the rehab area. So as good as it might feel, you understand that your physician probably knows a little bit more than what I know or what you know about how to rehab this surgery. And the reason it takes so long is because it's going to take about a year for a tendon to function properly as a ligament. But now I kind of want to take this and kind of implement it to your life if you ever have to get this. And hopefully this rehab has taught you, if you do get the surgery, how to fix it. But I want to talk about prevention and how to make sure that this doesn't happen. So one of the most important things is ice. I ice after every time I throw, and it's important to keep icing every time you play baseball to make sure your arm does not get worse and worse. And there's been quite a few studies about it's the number of throws you make, not just how hard you're throwing, that really wears down the UCL. And I thought that was very interesting, is that it's the number of throws you have. And then here's Little League elbow. And Little League elbow is in quotations because it's kind of like a fake name for it. But it's the exact same thing as Tommy John surgery, or that issue of the UCL being hurt. But as a kid, as a child, you have a growth plate in the elbow, which makes it that much more complicated for the surgery to happen. So the good thing about Little League, the organization, is they now have pitch counts for pitchers to make sure that they do not throw too much. Because studies have been shown that it's the number of throws, not just how hard you throw, that really wears down the UCL. So that's the good part, but it's the Little League elbow that kind of scares me, that a child could be having this surgery with that growth plate and really mess up his arm and end his career. No curves till older. Something about the biomechanics of how you throw a curveball can mess up the arm, and with the growth plate especially. So it's better to just take your time and understand that nobody wants to peak as a little leaguer, and let your arm, recuperate everything it needs to do, and just wait to throw a curve till you get a little bit older. I would have to say, one of the things that was most interesting to me, and probably the most shocking thing that I noticed when I was doing this research, is about who's getting the surgery. There were times when I was researching this, I'd get a little off topic and read more about the effects on the baseball game and maybe the surgery aspect. But there were some interesting facts in here that I wanted to share with you guys. Only 25% of those people getting the surgery are major league pitchers, which shocks me, because that means the other 75% are either amateur athletes or somebody that needed this surgery. But the other 75% come from college baseball players, people in the minors, or high school athletes. The number of high school athletes getting this surgery has grown and grown and continues to grow today. And it scares me because the cost is between $10,000 to $20,000. I don't know who has this type of money to pay for the surgery, but it scares me to think that other high school athletes are having to get this type of surgery. And the reason that this is happening more and more is because a decade ago, summer baseball was something that happened for a month or two. And now, summer is more competitive. There's a lot more games, which is great for the game, but also takes a lot of wear and tear on your elbow. So if you do play baseball, and you play baseball in the summer, you have to understand that you need to give time for your body to recuperate and make sure your ice. Seeing that this cost is $10,000 to $20,000 for this surgery really makes me understand how important it is just to ice after I play baseball, after a practice. I really understand I can be saving myself some money, taking the time, 5 minutes out of my day to make sure I ice my elbow. Little League elbow I like to talk about scares me personally for children. Hopefully you understand if you guys ever become parents and are coaching your son or whoever it might be, to make sure you take it slow, make sure you ice to help prevent this type of surgery thing to happen. And also, something I felt really interesting was the myths that go along with this surgery. Billy Cox, a Chicago White Sox reliever, was once quoted saying after getting this surgery that, "It felt so good when I came back, I said I recommend it to everybody, regardless what your ligament looks like." And what he's trying to say is when he came back from the surgery, he felt like he was throwing harder than before, he had more accuracy, and everything like that. But in reality, like I said before, the reason you get this surgery is not because something just pops immediately. A lot of the time, that can happen, but a lot of the time you're wearing down your UCL through repetitive use over and over again. So for a couple of months or a year, whatever it might be, you're not throwing your top speed that you were before, and this gets normal to you because your arm's getting worn down and worn down. So when you do finally get the surgery, you'll be back to what you were probably 2 years ago, and it's going to feel as if you're throwing much harder than you are. But physicians have really looked into this, and the game of baseball has looked into this actually, to make sure that it is physically impossible for you to reach a higher potential after getting the surgery. So don't believe what this guy says. You shouldn't get the surgery unless you really need it. But that's pretty obvious. So summary. So what we learned today, in case you guys need a little recap, was hopefully I taught you guys about the anatomy of the elbow, what bones there are in the arm, the ligaments, the nerves, and the muscles, and where they're at, and all that. The UCL, what it stands for, what it is, why it's important, how it stabilizes the elbow. Surgery, remember the two techniques are the docking and the figure of 8, and why they are important. And then I also hope I could apply this to your life somehow, either through rehab or prevention, helping yourselves, or hopefully maybe your children one day. So we're just about running out of time here. I want to say thank you for your time, and if you guys would please just take a couple of seconds to fill out that quiz for me, that'd be great. I guess that's about it.